Okay, we enter the second week of the IPL. We're at Wankede for the first time this year, MI against KKR. And the home side, MI, are arriving with more questions than answers in terms of how they move forward with their side. They've had two losses, obviously against Chennai on a slowish surface. And then they've just come back from Ahmedabad where they were beaten by Gujarat, chasing a score which was probably slightly above par, but they fell 30 to 40 runs short. So MI have arrived with some questions, and we'll go into those in a moment. KKR started poorly against RCB, who certainly outplayed them in their home ground, and then they went on and beat Rajasthan and Guwahati pretty convincingly, where Quinton de Kock was outstanding. So, and their spinners did a good job. So there will be a small change with KKR in terms of Moeen Ali came in for Narayan, who was under the weather. Moeen bowled nicely on that surface, but I'm sure if Narayan is fully fit, he will just slot straight back in at the top there. So just a straight swap. The rest of their side is pretty much as you would expect. I don't think there will be too many changes there. Raghavanshi came in as the impact player for Chakravarti, and I'm sure it'll be something similar in return. So I'll talk about the KKR side a little bit later when I'm talking about the matchups. MI probably not quite so certain. They've had some issues at the top. You know, Rohit and Rickelton before the tournament, you would look at those two and go, look, two current internationals. They're in good form from the Champions Trophy. They haven't quite clicked yet. Rickelton looked good in the first game. For me, both Rickelton and Tilak Varma looked far too much leg side in the match against Gujarat with the ball angling across. They're always looking to try and fetch it onside. And on a wicket, it was just holding a little bit too paced or a little bit up and down. It pretty much created their downfall. And it created a lot of dot balls, and it limited their scoring options through the offside. So I'm sure the coaching team will be talking to them and saying, look, make sure we don't forget about the offside. And I think the beauty of Wankede is that you'll get real value for your shots, both sides of the wicket, because there will be pace on the ball. Rohit Sharma's had a couple of misses. Now, Rohit for me is a bit of an enigma, really. International cricket, he's an absolute standout. His numbers are huge. They go to those world events, whether it be Champions Trophy, T20 World Cup, ODI World Cups. His record is exceptional. But you look at the IPL for Mumbai, obviously he's won championships there, fine captain, but his numbers never reflect the quality of player that he is. So I've actually picked him as getting the orange cap this year, thinking that at some stage it's going to click. And he's going to have a massive season for MI. Obviously plays half of his games at the Wankede, excuse me, which is a fabulous surface. So, he's going to have to start to turn things around, because the problem with MI is they've been, the 3 down early against Chennai, 2 down early against Gujarat, and that makes the rest of this batting order have to work twice as hard. So they'll be wanting to set the platform up top and then allow the likes of Tilak, Sky to sort of basically add the cream on top. Hardik to come in as the finisher rather than have to provide the amount of substance that they have had to do so far. This one here is an interesting one. Robin Mintz coming in as the impact player at 5. I could understand the left-hander against Sai Kishore, but I certainly would have wanted him to take the game on a little bit more than he did. So he hasn't quite showed the talent that we know that everybody around the country has suggested he's got. Just haven't quite seen it yet on the IPL stage. Will an opportunity at Wankede be the time where he'll unveil all of those skills? Namandir's looked in good touch. Hardik was very good with the ball. And he was the first guy who ran in and changed his pace. And he pretty much turned the game just after the power play with the ball. But with the bat, he looked a little bit devoid of ideas when the ball started to go up and down. The run rate was climbing. We probably didn't see the intent that was required for Mumbai at that time against Gujarat. But, it was against some fine bowling. The wicket was a little bit up and down, but I'm sure Hardik will look back and go, hey, what could I have done better with the bat? He started with Sky, and then by the time Hardik got out, the game was certainly dead and buried. Mitchell Santner bowled nicely in Gujarat. He probably should have got Josh Buttler early on. He had one go through long off's hands along the ground as well that went for 4. So he looked good. He looked threatening with the ball. And with the bat, he showed that he's capable. So if they wanted a left-hander to slide up the order, I don't think Santner would be a bad idea in terms of the ability he's got to hit, especially over the offside. Deepak Chahar and Trent Boult, probably the big concern for MI is that the ball hasn't swung yet. And I think you look at those two, and if the ball swings even a few inches, then they are world beaters. But the ball hasn't really swung. It could well swing at Wankede because it's often a bit more humid there. There is that breeze that comes from the water. I know there's obviously a stadium and it can come in and swirl, but often you get a bit of a cross breeze there. So if it does, then obviously the ball will swing and those two will become far more of a threat against this KKR order. I do look at it though and I go, look, the reason why RCB was so effective against Narayan was the length that they bowled. You know, they didn't bowl him any of those step hits. They didn't pitch it up and try and swing it. They banged it in sort of coming through here. They banged it in coming through here. They certainly didn't bowl balls that were just in that slot. So the challenge you have when you're a swing bowler and you want to pitch the ball up and allow it to swing is sometimes that can basically fall right into the trap of Narayan in terms of if it doesn't swing, he can just hit the ball up and over the offside, or if it does swing, and if it doesn't, then he can pick it up over the leg side. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of discussions with these two around the length that they want to bowl to Sunny Narayan and whether they will actually forget about the swing and actually try and get it up through here as well, and that change of pace that we talk about from wide. So interesting to see that match up in the power play. Quinton de Kock obviously has played a lot at Wankede. He's got a decent record there. Once again, if you don't get him early, and for me, you've actually got to angle it back in. So Trent Boult, don't worry about trying to swing it away. Worry about trying to get that one to nip back in through the gate of Quinton de Kock and try and hit the poles. You try and swing it, it gives them that opportunity to hit through the offside. So that'll be an interesting matchup. And then Mujeeb, I think if we look, those who've seen Mujeeb over many years in the IPL or playing for Afghanistan, he's normally very, very accurate, but he certainly did not get it right for Mumbai against the Gujarat Titans. Whether it was dewy, whether it was slippery, whether he was nervous, I don't know. But I don't think he will bowl that poorly again. It's just whether MI want to go with the two overseas spinners in their lineup. So they have options to make, and I think if, they've got options, they could bring in an extra seamer and Corbin Bosch as an overseas seamer, so it gives them 4 good seamers. Corbin Bosch can slot in here somewhere, sort of around the Deepak Chahar slot. So they still bat a bit deeper, and he provides that 4th seamer. So they could look at that. They could also go Will Jacks and maybe either slot him in here at 3 or maybe even in here at 5. So there's some thoughts around what they might do with Will Jacks. Whether he comes into that lineup, whether they stick with Mujeeb or they go with Corbin Bosch. Time will tell the shape that they will go with. But Mumbai Indians at the Wankede, it doesn't normally spin a huge amount, especially at night when there's dew. So the other thing is with Raju, he's very much a change-up bowler, and that they probably looked at that and thought, hey, we want with Chahar and Boult and Hardik, we want a point of difference. So we want someone that's going to be that back of the hand slower ball. Hasn't quite got it right in the 2 games that he has played, but whether they persevere with him, I'm not sure. Ashwani Kumar, new ball bowler and can bowl good Yorkers at the back end. He'll come into consideration whether it's a bit too early. We will see. This is the man here, Jasprit Bumrah. You add Jasprit Bumrah to that lineup and you have got a formidable team. Everyone slides up. You can play the likes of Will Jacks. You've got 5 frontline bowlers. So this guy, they'll be waiting. I'm not sure when he'll come back. We'll have to wait and see. But once MI get Bumrah in the park, I think they will be far more formidable. But they have to start winning games without him. And that's where I think this top 3 here, or these top 2, one of them has got to go on and make a major contribution for MI. In terms of KKR, as I said, they would have got plenty of confidence. Rahane looked pretty good in that first match against RCB. Raghavanshi was nice and tidy, got the side through to that chase with Quinton de Kock. Mediocre chase, but he showed his experience and obviously batting around some experienced players too. Venkatesh Iyer, he scored 100 at Wankede against Mumbai not so long ago. He loves that consistent pace and bounce, and from a bowling point of view, you've got to take it away from him. So you've got to find out how can we bowl the back of the hand, and that's where maybe someone like Raju could be a nice match-up to Venkatesh Iyer with that back of the hand change of pace. Deepak Chahar could also be that with the knuckleball. So you can't just line up and run and bowl at Venkatesh Iyer. As I said, he's very stiff-legged, very one-pace hitter, so you've got to try and find a way to take him off the ball. What else we got here? Andre Russell, we saw in that match against RCB where they brought in Surya Sharma. He blocked the ball, next ball, he hit a boundary, and the next one he got his poles knocked over. I think you have to have a wrist spinner available. And the beauty of MI is if, no matter what they do with this spot, they're always going to have a free position there. So it's whether they go with Karan Sharma or they bring Vignesh back. I do feel a little bit for Vignesh. He got those 3 wickets against Chennai. But I think you do need to understand that at Gujarat and at MI, the ball is just not going to turn as much. The ball will slide on. So your wrist spinners have got to be quite into the wicket to be effective with the odd change of pace. And I'd say Vignesh's normal pace is quite slow. So, whether they bring him back and they take that punt against these power hitters through the middle, that'll be interesting to see, because I think MI pretty much have a free spot up for grabs. They don't necessarily have to play an extra seamer if Robin Mintz drops out and they bring in the likes of Jacks or even Corbin Bosch. So there's lots of decisions to make over here, but I think you've got to have wrist spin to be able to get through these power hitters, or at least have it at your disposal. Chakravarti, and we saw Chakravarti against RR. He keeps picking up sort of 1 or 2 wickets. The beauty of this lineup, I guess from a batting point of view, is you've got the beauty of seeing him off. And that seems to be what most sides do. They're happy for him to go 1 for 24 and then try and take down the seamers. Spencer Johnson was better last game, but he hasn't quite got it right. Vaibhav Arora and Harshit Rana, once again, if the ball doesn't swing, they're not quite as effective. So I think MI will have a bit of a plan in terms of seeing off Chakravarti, seeing off Narayan, and taking on the 3 seamers, and maybe Ramandeep might be that 4th seamer. So it's going to be really fascinating to see who's going to take on who. And who's going to set the platform. I think, once again, if MI can't get through this top 3 early, they're going to find it difficult to contain. I think whatever happens, you're going to want to chase, because Wankede is an incredibly difficult ground to defend on. So whoever wins the toss will bowl, trying to defend. It's one that I'm unsure. I think if MI had Bumrah, I would definitely go for them. KKR, as I said, this middle order hasn't quite got it right yet, albeit there's only sort of 1 chance. So I actually picked this as the final, MI against KKR, but both sides have plenty of work to do to get to that point at the moment. So if I have to pick a side at the moment, I'll go with the home side in MI, because I just don't think that top 3 is going to miss out again.